This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom. If you click on the link in the description below, it'll take you to their store and they'll know I sent you there. Hello everyone, I'm Neetsahone, and it's Friday, so that means it's time for another MTG Top 10. Most of the time, this series ranks cards based on their historical performance at Magic's highest level of competition, but the last few weeks I've been doing a worst video on Friday, and that's continuing this week as I look at the worst high mana cards in the game's history. For this video, high mana means a converted mana cost of 9 or higher. These worst videos are based first and foremost, in my opinion, but I do use some data in making my picks. A card can't be on a worst list if it ever top 8 at a premier event. It also can't be on here if it is widely played in EDH. This is because, obviously, if either of those things are true, it isn't one of the worst cards ever. So, generally, if you're paying 9 mana or more for something, you expect something that is truly game-breaking and swings the game in your favor. 9 mana or more is far too much to invest in a card that has very little impact on the game, or one that is too narrow, and that's exactly what we have on this list. Alright, let's get to number 10. At number 10, it is Zodiac Dragon. It is worth noting in this case that Zodiac Dragon has functional errata. Instead of returning when it is put into your graveyard from anywhere, it has to do it from the battlefield. This was a case of Wizards messing up on templating, kind of like they did on Rook Egg. The card was functionally always supposed to only come back from the graveyard if it was put there from play, and not in all other cases. Obviously, this would be easy to abuse. It is a pity, though, that the dragon goes from being something you could discard infinitely to your wild mongrel to being one of the worst high mana cards ever. A 9 mana 8/8 is a terrible rate, and it doesn't even come with any other ability other than its recursive one. And let's be real, a recursive ability is only as good as the creature it's on, and just paying 9 mana for this over and over again is a real good way to lose a game. At number 9, I have Denying Wind. It is the card to make this list that is the most widely played in EDH, but I still think it's pretty terrible. It is actually part of a cycle of Wind from Prophecy, all of which cost a ton of mana and have what should be some massive effect since you spend so much mana. And while some of the cycle gets there, like Plague Wind, Denying Wind definitely does not. This type of Jester's Cap effect can be nice for taking away your opponent's best cards or denying them some combo pieces, but it's still a 9 mana card that has no impact on the game in the immediate future in most cases, and you expect a lot more than that when you're paying 9 mana. At number 8, I have Polar Kraken. It is the first of several big blue creatures to make the list. The Kraken is an 11 mana 11/11 with Trample. Even if it had no downside, that would be a pretty bad deal for that amount of mana. 11 mana isn't easy to get, so you kind of want something that has a more immediate impact on the game, or something that is resilient and difficult to kill. Polar Kraken is none of those things. If you want to get really cute with it, you could reanimate it, but even that isn't awesome, since the cumulative upkeep here will rapidly eat up all your lands or result in you giving up the Kraken anyway. At number 7, I have Thing from the Deep. As promised, this is another huge blue creature. Like Polar Kraken, this is a card that isn't even that great on the vanilla test as a 9 mana 9/9, and it comes with a downside that destroys lands. At least in this case, the downside isn't quite as colossal as Polar Kraken's, but then you're also not getting a creature with an evasive ability with Thing from the Deep either. It is a pity because it has a pretty sweet name and I even like the art, but it's a terrible card. At number 6, it is the Unspeakable, our third consecutive big blue creature. I think most people would probably put it even higher on their list, but I do have a bit of a soft spot for this card, so maybe I'm going easy on it. Of all the cards on this list, it's the one that has played the least in EDH, so by that metric alone, it is certainly the worst. The Unspeakable, unlike the other blue creatures we looked at so far, actually does something other than damage, and he comes with flying, making that 9 mana investment hurt a little bit less, maybe. Problem is, his ability, which lets you get back arcane spells from your graveyard, is just too narrow. There aren't enough arcane spells, let alone good arcane spells in the game, that make that worth it. So why do I kind of like the Unspeakable? Mostly because he has a neat design. There were 3 spells in Champions of Kamigawa, Peer Through Depths, Reach Through Mists, and Sift Through Sands, that if you cast them all in the same turn, and in the right order, you would get to cheat the Unspeakable into play from your library. And obviously in that case, he has arcane spells to get back from the graveyard. Now, all of that stuff doesn't make the Unspeakable good, not even remotely, but I do feel like this upside for the Unspeakable does matter in evaluating it, although obviously this is not an easy thing to pull off in a singleton format like EDH, and I think that's why he's hardly played at all in the format, you know, in addition to also being kind of crappy anyway. At number 5, I have Teeka's Dragon. The chain of big blue creatures is finally over. Teeka's Dragon is a big artifact creature though, and boy is it a bad one. A 9-mana 5/5 flying trampler is really bad, and sure, it has Rampage 4, which effectively means that it is a bad idea to double block it, but the upside of Rampage is just not enough to make Teeka's Dragon something you should ever be casting. Teeka's Dragon's only saving grace is that it has a popular creature type, and as a result, people feel the need to jam it into their Dragon EDH decks, but people really shouldn't be doing that. There are literally over 200 better dragons to choose from. I would even play Zodiac Dragon before Teeka's Dragon. At number 4, it's Leviathan. Like the Unspeakable, this is another big blue monster that I have a bit of a soft spot for. In 2000, Wizards had a product called the Beatdown box set, which came with 2 ready-to-play decks, and a friend and I got it. Leviathan was in one of those decks, and I thought it seemed like such a cool card. I thought the art was awesome, and I had never seen such a large creature. But Leviathan's downside just is not worth it. He is yet another big blue creature who destroys your lands, and he does it at an alarming rate. Just to untap him and attack with him, you have to give up 4 lands, and they have to all be islands. And even if you do have some way of untapping him without giving up those islands, you aren't exactly getting there. Sure, he's big and has trample, but in a lot of games he's going to be able to attack twice, and your opponent can even wait until you give up all those lands and kill him at instant speed. Trust me, it's not a good feeling. At number 3, it is Aladdin's Lamp. This thing costs a ton of mana and has a huge text box, so surely it does something amazing, right? Not so much. The lamp lets you replace a draw each turn with its ability, which gives you some card selection. Note it's not even card advantage, just selection, and to really be getting there with the lamp, you need to be pumping decent amounts of mana into it, and that's in addition to all the mana you spent to cast it in the first place. If you have infinite mana, I suppose you can use it to find whatever you want in your deck, but you should probably just be winning the game with infinite mana, right? Also, fun fact, they hadn't made a symbol for 10 generic mana yet, so the original Aladdin's Lamp actually costs 5 twice instead. At number 2, it is Blessed Wind, a card from that wind cycle from Prophecy I mentioned earlier, and it is certainly the worst of the bunch. Like Denying Wind, with Blessed Wind you pay 9 mana for an effect that is typically not going to have a very big impact, especially considering you paid 9 mana for it. Your board has to be in pretty amazing shape for you to be able to actually tap 9 mana to cast it, and even then, it isn't going to do a lot. Sure, you can use it to lower someone's life if they have more than 20, or raise yours if you have less. I guess that's flexibility, but it would probably be a better card for EDH if it just gained you 20 life. Of course, it would still be pretty terrible. And at number 1, I have Dichotomancy. Even though Dichotomancy does have an alternate cost, you can suspend it for 3 mana, it is still the worst high mana card in this game by my estimation. It lets you search your opponent's library for copies of any tapped non-land permanents they have, and obviously that kind of effect is at a disadvantage in EDH, but it's a terrible card even if we don't think about that. This is because either way you cast it, it's probably going to be pretty bad. Suspending it might give you a discount, but it also means your opponent knows it's coming. They can just not tap any of their stuff the turn before it is done being suspended, and then Dichotomancy doesn't do anything apart from keep your opponent from attacking you for 1 turn. It's like a really bad fog in a way. If you cast it for 9 mana, you're probably going to have more success in getting to steal stuff from your opponent's library, but it's still a card that will be way too erratic. Sometimes your opponent just won't have enough stuff to make the price tag worth it, or they won't have duplicates of some of the cards you want. You just can't rely on Dichotomancy actually doing something, and that means I definitely don't want to be paying 9 mana for it. Well, that does it for this MTG Top 10. Do you think I left out any horrible cards that cost 9 mana or more? Or did I mention a card you think I shouldn't have? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it so that others can enjoy it too. If you want to make sure you catch future MTG Top 10s, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Finally, if you want to catch up on the 300 plus MTG Top 10s I've already done, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.